Every year, smartphone companies launch new phones and they have some new feature to show off or some new feature to sell to you guys that convinces you to buy a phone. OnePlus has also been doing this since the very beginning. It started off with their sandstone back finish and their hardware. Then it came down to their build quality. Then they finally started selling their battery life and charging capabilities. And then eventually they started selling the display, wherein which they had an AMOLED display. Then the next year it was a 120 Hz display. So OnePlus has had a standard progression with respect to showing off some of their hardware in display fingerprint sensors and just things that will convince you to buy the next OnePlus device. This year around, however, OnePlus hasn't done any of that, and their biggest marketing hype has been their partnership with Hasselblad. This has been a big sort of selling point for the company. In fact, they started teasing and showing off their actual device much before launch to prevent any leaks, just to show off this Hasselblad branding on the back of their phones. Is this enough for OnePlus to sell the new OnePlus 9? And is the branding or the partnership a big enough deal that convinces you to buy this phone? We'll find out in this review along with testing some of the other capabilities of this device. My name is Bharat Nagpal, you're watching iGyaan. Today we're going to be reviewing the OnePlus 9. The phone is available with two variants, 8GB with 128GB of storage and 12GB with 256GB of storage. You do get LPDDR5 RAM along with UFS 3.1 storage, which means that the performance of the RAM as well as the storage is good enough. But let's talk about the build quality and design. OnePlus claims that on the front and the back of the phone there is Corning Gorilla Glass. They haven't mentioned what Corning Gorilla Glass it is. It is definitely not going to be Victus, but again, we don't have any information on this. We know that the OnePlus 8T did have Corning Gorilla Glass 5, so this will have at least Corning Gorilla Glass 5. If not, then it might have Victus. Because this is also a cheaper phone, it might also have Corning Gorilla Glass 3. Again, this information is not available to us at the time of making this review, so we will leave that in the description below once we do have the full information on this. That being said, the construction of the phone is pretty rigid, and there is a screen protector on the front of the device. So for most cases, you will be protected on the front, and OnePlus will sell you a screen protector along with a tempered glass. So you can choose between either of those and buy them from OnePlus's own website, or you can buy third-party ones. I would recommend that you have something on the front of the device at all times, just to keep the main glass protected. On the back is also 3D Corning Gorilla Glass, again, unspecified, but we assume that it is Corning Gorilla Glass 5. If there's any change in that, we will drop that in the description below as well. Now, there is also no IP rating on the OnePlus 9, whereas the 9 Pro does get IP68. So the OnePlus 9 also ditches the metal frame, and you don't get a metal frame anymore. You get a reinforced polymer frame. It's reinforced with fiberglass. So it's a pretty durable material, but it is not as resilient as metal would be. And even though it will not dent as metal would, it's easy to scratch, and the paint is just a coating on top of it, which means that you can get rid of the paint quite easily, which means that you can scratch the side panel quite easily. On the flip side, a reinforced plastic or polymer frame will give the phone a little bit of flex. That means that if you do end up dropping it on the edges, it will absorb quite a lot of that shock and prevent your glass from breaking. That being said, it definitely takes away from the premiumness of the OnePlus devices, and the OnePlus 9 now becomes more of a high-end mid-ranger versus a flagship killer that it is sort of touted to be as far as the build quality and construction goes. Now, as far as the display is concerned, you get a 6.55-inch 120Hz AMOLED display. This has 1100 nits of brightness, pretty bright in day-to-day use. It does go to a peak of 1100 nits if you're watching HDR content. Indoor visibility as well as outdoor visibility is good, viewing angles are great, and color saturation is also on point. OnePlus also seems to have worked out most of its blue tint issues and tint shift issues that we saw in previous generations of displays. And as far as our unit is concerned, the display doesn't seem to have any of those problems, along with any light leaks whatsoever. So the display is basically the same display, slightly better tuned, and you do get 120 Hertz. It dynamically changes based on the content that you're consuming or the games that you're playing. So as long as the content that you're playing is supported by the panel, it will automatically slow down the refresh rate so that you don't get jittery content that you would get in the case of a non-dynamic display. The display also houses the in-display fingerprint sensor. Now this is also pretty fast and accurate. It's easy to set up as you would in the previous generations of OnePlus devices, and it is on the front, so it is convenient for a lot of people. I do personally prefer the fingerprint sensor in the power button, but the one that is in the display of the OnePlus is a pretty good fingerprint sensor, and for most people it works just as good. You still do get a face unlock. It's not secure, so if you do want to secure your phone, I would recommend using a strong password or the fingerprint sensor. Now, before we talk about performance, I want to go first into the cameras, because the cameras are the highest selling point for OnePlus. One major improvement that we see now is that while you shift between the standard camera and the telephoto camera, you don't see a major shift in the framing. So that is a big improvement that OnePlus has done as far as the camera tuning is concerned. When you zoom in a smooth zoom between a standard lens and a telephoto lens, or a standard lens and a wide lens, you will not see the shift, because previously it would drastically shift left or right for the frame. This time around, however, it stays straight. On these cameras, you do see a considerable difference in the color shift when you do zoom in from the ultra wide to the normal sensor, and you do see a shift in the saturation and the white balance, as well as the levels of black that you do get on your image. But again, the shifting between the frames is not happening on this camera, so that is a massive improvement for OnePlus, and something that other phones are already doing, but OnePlus was failing at doing that, and they've managed to fix it in this edition of their OnePlus devices, so that's a plus, I guess. The Hasselblad branding on the back doesn't really do much for the camera. The camera does do a good job of clicking pictures, and high dynamic range images are good as well. Video is super stable thanks to electronic image stabilization. However, the main camera does not have optical image stabilization. Despite that, if you do capture video on this, it looks like you're holding a gimbal, and electronic image stabilization works great as long as you have a well-lit environment. If you do want to click or capture videos at night, you would want to keep them as less shaky as possible, because the electronic image stabilization really struggles in low light environments. You do have the ability to capture nightscape for photographs as well as video, and some of the photos that we got at low light environments, extremely dark environments, turned out to be really nice. They look great on the phone, and they do look great when you upload them to social media as well. But if you do want to sort of stretch them out or make them bigger, you want to set them as your desktop wallpaper, you will definitely see a lot of noise. So they're optimized for use on smaller devices, on smaller screens, and they look good for that. And there's a lot of post-processing and exposure management that's happening digitally that improves the overall quality of the image to look at in a smaller size. The minute you want to blow it up, it's going to break out, and there's a lot of noise that you will be able to see. But you do get highly exposed videos even in low light environments, and that can be useful for a lot of people. You also have a portrait video, which works great. It does struggle a little bit with sort of blocking out or outlining hair, but for the most part, for the kind of usage that people will have with this phone, you will get a good background blur even with video on. You do have a pro mode that allows you to get finer control of your images, and of course you do have the orange shutter button that gives you a reassuring internal feeling that you own a proud Hasselblad camera that this phone really is not. You're getting a basic camera with the Hasselblad branding, and while OnePlus has done a good job with the camera, it's no big deal to add a Hasselblad brand on it, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we come to the conclusion. Let's move on to performance. Now on the inside is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888, and like we mentioned, you get 8GB or 12GB of RAM, and between those two options you can even pick the 8GB option and you'll be good to go for the most part. If you're planning on gaming on this device, this display along with this processor is a good combination, and for the most part the OnePlus 9 will be a fantastic product to choose if performance is what you're looking for. You get an impressive battery life, and you do get a good performing hardware on the inside of the phone. The phone also doesn't heat up and is well balanced as far as performance is concerned. Gaming on this phone is also not a problem. The 120Hz display does have a fast touch sampling rate as well, and it manages to deliver in that aspect as well. If you want a even faster touch sampling rate, you will have to pick the OnePlus 9 Pro. Just everyday task running between applications is pretty impressive, and that has been the case with OnePlus devices in the past. One of the main reasons that people want to choose OnePlus devices is because Oxygen OS works well, and it works well on this device as well. Out of the box, you get Android 11, Oxygen OS also tuned to perfection on this phone, and it works really well on this device. You will not see the phone slow down. We've been using it for a couple of weeks, and overall the performance of the phone has been pretty impressive. What you will get is a consistent software update capability from OnePlus, which we've been seeing for the past couple of years. And they're pretty quick to figure out bugs and solve those problems for people. And the user interface remains more or less stock, close to stock Android as much as they can. And that does improve the overall performance as well as the overall experience of using this device, which makes the OnePlus 9 one of the most compelling offers with the Snapdragon 888 processor on the inside. Now for connectivity, you do get 5G capability on this device, even though 5G is a while away from launching in India. For a lot of people who buy this phone today and want to keep it for a couple of years, this will support 5G when it does launch in India. And if you plan to hold on to this phone till then, you should be rest assured that you will be able to use and access 5G if that's something that you're looking forward to. You also get 2x2 MIMO antennas. That means that gaming performance or Wi-Fi performance while gaming, especially if you're holding your phone with a grip, will be pretty impressive as well. Overall, we didn't have any issues with connectivity on the device. The speakerphone, the microphone are all loud, and as far as the audio quality is concerned, that is pretty good as well. You can pop in 2 SIM cards in there, and you don't have any micro SD card expandability, but you can pick a higher storage variant if storage is what you're looking for. So the OnePlus 9 now supports a 65T warp charge, which means that you get about 65 watts of charging on this device. The charger is included inside the box, and you also get the cable that supports 65 watts of charging. So you can charge the 4500 mAh battery to 100% in just 29 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous if you just think about it. Going back a couple of years, it used to take 2 hours to charge up your phone. Now it's just 29 minutes, under 30 minutes to fully charge your phone. So you no longer need to have your phone plugged in at all times. And if you do have the charger with you, all you need is like 10 minutes of charging to make you basically run through the entire day for the most part. The phone misses out on wireless charging, which is a feature that has been added into the OnePlus 9 Pro, and that does 50 watts of wireless charging. I feel that OnePlus could have added 15 watts of wireless charging to the OnePlus 9, even though wireless charging is something that a lot of people don't like using. It's just a feature that could have been added onto the OnePlus 9 just to make it a little more handy for a lot of people, because a lot of wireless chargers are now starting to get into households, and that could just be another way to charge your phone without needing the charger at all times. Now, OnePlus has done a fantastic job with the OnePlus 9 if you look at it, especially if you look at some of the other competition that's in the market. If you compare it with Samsung's offerings, the OnePlus 9 is a compelling device, especially with the Snapdragon 888 chip. It's going to be one of the cheapest phones with the Snapdragon 888 chip as well. And while they do provide all of those features and capabilities, OnePlus has been adrift from their devices quite a lot. The Hasselblad branding, the lack of a metal structure, and lack of clarity in what direction the OnePlus devices are heading in is a big question mark. There is a major shift from their parent company, Oppo, to integrate OnePlus into their portfolio, as well as the launch of other devices means that OnePlus's focus has shifted more to accessories and less to their phones. There hasn't been a big change on the OnePlus in a couple of refreshes, and the OnePlus 9 is just a testament of that you're not really seeing anything new come out of OnePlus's portfolio, and the only real new thing this time around is the Hasselblad branding, which honestly could have been avoided on the OnePlus 9 just to make the phone a little bit cheaper, because the camera offering hasn't been improved that much with the Hasselblad branding, and honestly this could have improved the price positioning of the OnePlus 9 a little bit better if they would have avoided the Hasselblad branding altogether and just focused on putting Hasselblad branding on the OnePlus 9 Pro. That being said, this is the easiest and possibly the cheapest way to get into Hasselblad's cameras in 2021 at this moment. And if you do want to experience that, the OnePlus 9 is a pretty good phone apart from all of that. And if you don't care about the plastic construction, and if you don't care about the fact that the Hasselblad branding doesn't really do too much, the phone is a compelling offering, and for the price that it is available at, this will be a good purchase decision for a lot of people. We leave links in the description below if you want to go check out the phone, and if you want to also go check out the phone in more detail, we'll have links to the website as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already a part of Team iGyaan. This has been Bharat. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.